All right, welcome back from your lunch, everybody. I hope we've been having a great time here this afternoon. All right, so we do have another speaker who's up here. He's David Edgerton, Jr. He's a managing principal for the DEJ Group, that's the DEJ Group, an executive search and recruiting firm that focuses on minding and connecting exceptional, diverse talent with inclusive companies. David has over 24 years of corporate experience and has served as an adjunct professor for over 11 years. So teaching information technology, project management, business analytics. During his corporate career, he has worked for many companies in the Twin Cities, including Anderson Windows and Doors, BMatch Ambient Consulting, and also Best Buy and more. All right, if your hands are not busy, please give it up for Mr. David Edgerton, Jr.
How's everybody doing? Very good. Let me tell you something. These guys in this front row already said, it better be good. So let me see if I can deliver, all right? All right, here's what I want to do to start this topic of Agile, your sustainable competitive advantage in a chaotic world. I thought that was a cool title, and of course, because I have a marketing background, this room is full, so I think that worked. Let's talk about how we got here, and I'll get into it a little bit, okay? We're gonna have some fun with this. We're coming off of a pandemic, or at least we still kind of are in one, actually. And, you know, we've witnessed a couple of things over the last couple of years no one has seen. I think we can all agree to that. We also saw a couple of things that we didn't necessarily want to see, especially some specific crimes as it relates to what is happening in our society. Not our best look, as well as the planet is upside down. When we start talking about supply chain issues, we start talking about lockdowns and high inflation. So we got a lot of stuff going on, right? This whole thing about the Great Resignation, I'm still kind of tracking on that as an executive search firm owner. It's one of the topics I follow, along with the quiet quitting. I want somebody to do some loud quitting. I don't know about quiet. Quiet quitting, you don't say anything, and you just kind of go in and go out. I want somebody to do some loud quitting. I want them to tell me what's going on so I understand what's happening. And of course, we can see in all of the news updates, what's going on with Russia, Ukraine. We like to support those folks to help them really take care of themselves. So here's what's kept us going in all of that. And I could go back further in history because I am a history kind of guy, but just over the last 3 years, we have just seen so much stuff that we need some things that make us smile. And one of the things is our ability to innovate. That's kept us going. Our ability and our will to survive, that has kept us going. Another thing, a hope for a better tomorrow. That has definitely kept us going. It's going to be better tomorrow than it was yesterday. And I think it was Master Oogway in Kung Fu Panda said, yesterday was history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today's a gift. That's why they called it the present, right? Y'all connected with me on that. I like that. This is my kind of crowd. Okay, and last, not least, collaboration continues to make things better. That's why we're here at this conference anyway. We talk about Agile. That's all about collaboration, but we're going to get into it for us. Here's the thing I want you to think about. We, in this room, are Agile practitioners, all of us, whether it's, getting started with it, whether you're, Scrum Master, product owner, right, on a development team, you're a trainer. I got out of it before we got into safe. When I think about safe, I think about something to put my jewelry in and lock up. But, we got folks practicing safe and all that. So we're doing this for the sake of creating products and services and making sure they're the very best that are on the market for the people we work for. So here's the thing. What if we took everything that we were doing for our companies to create these wonderful products and services and actually focused on ourselves instead of the companies? What would that look like? What if we use Agile principles, as it says here, and an Agile framework to improve our personal capabilities and performance? Have you thought about that? Has it ever come to mind that as you go to work and you're saying, I'm working on this software, working on this release, or working on this sprint, that what we're doing as a team, as an organization, I could be doing this to improve me. That's where we're going to go today, just for a short amount of time. That's why it's going to be a sustainable competitive advantage in this crazy world. So to get there, I want to build this really simple construct. You know, I know everybody talked about all the complicated stuff of Agile and Scrum and stream programming. In this session, we're going to keep it real simple. We're going to talk about your personal operating system. What is that? What is that? Well, let's define it. So your personal operating system is a combination of these things: your thoughts, values, beliefs, and your ideas. Your skills and abilities. So for you object-oriented programmers like I used to be 30 years ago, right? Your attributes and your methods for that object and how it's defined, and your class and how that's put together. That's all the only technical stuff I'm gonna say. Because if I go too much further, I'm gonna hurt myself. But as a part of your personal operating system, you also have your knowledge, you have your learning style, you have your process, which is very important, for observing and absorbing and processing information. Your experiences, that makes up your personal operating system. And more importantly, the responses you have when something happens to you. That's part of that too. So our personal operating system is the system we're going to use as a construct in this Agile space. And when we talk about it, that's what's going to give us the sustainable competitive advantage to face the world. Now, let's talk about some fundamental pieces of this POS system. Now, everybody in this room has the same code base. I'm going to prove it to you. How many people have 2 ears? Yep. How many people have one mouth? How many people have 2 eyes? I'm not talking about these. Got 2 eyes? Well, your code base says you should listen and watch twice as much as you speak. That'll go home with you. It's in your pocket. Take it home with you. But that's really what that means. We should listen more than we speak, twice as much. We should observe things before we speak, right? That's in everybody's personal operating system. What makes us unique, though, is that we each have some specific code in that code base that's based on our DNA, okay? So just as this young man in front has a nice, haircut here, my haircut is going to be a little bit different because of the way our code works in our system, right? That's okay if I say that, isn't it? Yeah. He wants it to be good, so I got to keep him in this presentation, all right? So there's that. Another thing, those that can integrate with other POS systems and scale their networks have the competitive advantage. So that means if I can have my system work with yours, and you can have yours work with mine, guess what that does? We now talk about something we've always worked on in the Agile space, integration. But it's got a little bit of different flair to it now because we're talking about our personal operating system. So here's the thing with that. In order to have one, we have to have a business model that's a part of that system. Every system that you all have worked on has an architecture. Is that right? Got solution architects in the room, enterprise architects in the room, maybe those kind of folks, right? So when you have an architect, you have a blueprint of the system and how it's supposed to work. Or in our case, we're going to use for a construct for that this. How many people are familiar with the business model canvas? Are you familiar with that? How many people are? How many people aren't? Okay, that tells me that I'm not going to go that fast through my slides. So I make sure everybody's on the same page. So let's talk about a personal business model to support the personal operating system that we're going to learn to iterate on and be agile about a little bit later. Will that work for everybody? Yeah? Good. Okay, so I'll go through this a little bit fast. So there's 9 of these. There's my clock. I'll say I'm good. All right, so the first one, customer segment. So in your space, you have to think about who your customers are, that your system is going to interact with. That could be your manager, could be your team, could be your family, could be your community. Because remember, this is our system that runs our life, and we're going to learn how to be agile with that, the way we're building software for our companies and our clients. So you got customer segments you got to think about. You also have to think about the value proposition. So what's that? How do you solve the people you serve's problem? I personally believe that everyone in this room, if you are breathing, if you got up this morning, if you made it here, the reason that is because you are the solution to somebody's problem in this world, in this planet, or on this planet. And the reason they're still suffering is because you haven't figured out what solution and value you provide, and you haven't found them to give it to them yet. So part of this in our personal operating system is to figure out the value that we bring, which is the solution to someone's problem. So that's something that you have to think about. That's also a very big part of your model. Another part of your model are the channels. How do the people you serve know that you're serving them? Okay? How do you deliver that value? How do you solve their problem and then they know that you're solving their problem? So that's something you also have to think about. And then another thing you have to think about are the relationships. What kind of relationship you should have with the people you serve so that they know they're getting the thing that they need from you. All of this is part of how you, as an individual, go to market. Now, let's talk about what you get in return when you do this. What you get in return, a lot of things. In the case of working for the companies you work for, it might be salary and benefits. That's pretty straightforward. But the other stuff that you get that go along with that include personal brand equity, right? I know that this young lady who keeps smiling at me at the front row here, I know that she has a great brand, and what she produces and the reputation she has is a very good one where she is. So I know I want to connect with her, and I want to make sure that if she is the solution to my problem, that we figure that out. Can we do that a little bit later? Okay, sounds good. The career development and growth that occurs as a part of making your system better, that's important as well. One of the biggest things that we're starting to see and have more insight into when I talked about the quiet quitting and the loud quitting, if we talk about personal fulfillment, that's kind of at the core of that. So your personal fulfillment is based on the fact that you have defined who you are, what you want to do, and you figured out who to give that to. And in the process of being that solution to somebody's problem, you get fulfilled in a way that sustains you. Remember, we're talking about sustainable competitive advantage. This is how we're sustained. Everybody good so far with that? Good. Let's keep moving. On the side of creating the value, we're going to talk about the resources that you need, okay? And the resources are simply the things that you have. They could be physical, they could be intellectual, they could be competencies, which I'll talk about in a minute, and financial. So let's break down the competencies and what that looks like. So each one of you have competencies. Those are the skills that are part of your personal operating system. They're made up of 3 things: demonstrated actions, innate abilities, and the facts, data, and information that you have. So when you go to school and you get knowledge, right? That's just the stuff that you base the other things off of. Then the demonstrated actions are the things that you can do from a standpoint of, for example, being up here to be able to talk to you, right? That's a demonstrated action. That's a skill, right? And then innate attributes. Let's talk about those. So those are the things that you won't find on a resume. Those are the things that when you talk to people who maybe are in this space, those are the things that make them uniquely who they are. For example, would you agree or not agree that in order to be a practitioner of Agile, you must be curious? Okay. What else do you have to be to practice this wonderful framework? You must also be observant. Would you agree? Good. Guess what? No one puts that down on their resume. Nobody puts that on their LinkedIn. But we know that in order to do this well, you must have those things. So when you add all 3 of those together, those are personal competencies. Those are the upgrades to your POS that you must put in place. Okay, so here are the key activities. What do you actually do? So I've got people that lead teams. I got people that write software. I got people that negotiate deals. And one of my favorites, people that like to sell, talk to folk. That's a fun one, right? So what are the key activities you're doing for yourself to improve your personal operating system? That's the thing you have to think about, okay? And then, last but not least, you got to have some partners. And when I go into partners here, these are the people that help you by providing those resources or activities in case you can't provide them for yourself. Now, when we talk about partners, one of my things that I always love to talk about and talk like this are personal boards of directors, PBOD. Your corporate organizations have boards of directors, and their job is to make sure that the CEO does what he's supposed to do or she's supposed to do, but also governance for the organization. Well, you should have that too. In fact, if we're going to talk about partners in order to improve our personal operating system, you need to have these kinds of people. People you trust for sure, but people that don't always agree with you. How many people got friends that every time you come up with some foolishness that they always say, you know what, I'll go along with that. You got some folks like that? Yeah, you do. Don't be ashamed to raise your hand. I'm raising my hand, and I'll raise this one for you two that didn't raise y'all's. Okay? One beer, one scotch. Next thing you know, yeah, I think that's a great idea to jump off the bridge into the river outside over there. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, you got some folks like that. You don't want nobody else to know you got them, but they're there. See, y'all laughing now. See, that I know I got you. That's where we got you. But you need people that don't agree with you. That is what makes you sharp. That's what makes you better. Because if they don't agree with you, guess what they're going to do? They're going to help you see something you didn't see, right? Because, you, fact be told, aren't always right. So we need some folks around us that love us, take care of us, support us, who are strong enough to tell us that we're wrong. And that makes us better. Another framework for just selecting partners, this is something I came up with. You need actually 3 people around you to be a part of your personal board of directors, to be your partners in your personal operating system and your business model. Those 3 people are this. One person has to aspire to be you. Yeah, you need somebody looking at you that wants to be where you are. And the reason you need that is that person keeps you humble. Because when you think about they want to be where you are, that must mean you must be in a better place than they are. Which says, you know what, I need to be grateful for that. That's why you need them around. Then you need somebody who's kind of where you are, on your level, if you will. What do? Like these 2 guys. They're on the same level. You guys work for the same company. Y'all came together. See what happened? Yeah, they're not even a plan. I just figured that out. Not even a plan. I can look at them and tell, they boys. They buddies, right? Well, here's why that's important, okay? That's important because they keep each other grounded because of where they are. And why do you need to be grounded? Well, he had a bad day today. Well, I had a bad day yesterday. The coffee was cold at work today. Well, it was definitely cold tomorrow. We need a new Keurig, right? But they encourage each other where they are in their personal development, on their journey. They're at the same spot. That's a good thing to have. Got it? And then the last person you have to have is a person you aspire to be on your personal board of directors. You need somebody out there that you can look at and say, you know what? I want to be where that person is, right? Why is that important? Well, that keeps you hungry, keeps you going when stuff gets boring. Nah, I'm not where they are yet. Okay, well, I need to do a couple more, sprints, so we need to do that retrospective again. Yeah, you do. Because when we did it, this is what happened. We had a better product, so you go back in there and get it. You need somebody like that you aspire to be, because if you have all 3, I call that balance. Got it? So make sure as you're building your personal board of directors and your partners to help you with your personal operating system, that's where you build it from, okay? Let's do cost structure is easy. what does it cost you to create the value you create as a part of your system? Costs you stress. Stress is, something you can't avoid. You just got to have it. The question is, how do you manage it? That's the game. Long hours, yeah. How many people have been on the phone with Microsoft for like 72 hours straight? I got a story from 1996 when I did that. Server went down. I was an email architect, Microsoft certified systems engineer, and I was responsible for all email for an entire continent. And it went down, and I had to spend the night in the data center. My wife brought me a biscuit and some chicken. Kept me going. It was awesome. But I was in pain on the phone waiting to talk to them. Anyway, long hours. But that's what I did at the time. Nonstop availability, sweat equity, we know what those things, and of course cash. It takes some investment for us to create value. Everybody good with that so far? Because that is your personal business model that supports your personal operating system, which gives you a sustainable competitive advantage in this chaotic world. Okay? So we need that. And then when we have that, we can do this. We can now take that model and see how it fits in a team model with others that we work with. Now we can build good teams because we understand what people need in order to be successful and productive. And then once you do that, now you can get really, really cool with it and see how that team model fits into the company model using the same kind of components. See how it goes together? Yeah, that's a cool thing, all right? So with that, and I'm almost done here, let's talk about iterating on the POS. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the Agile stuff, all right? So everybody's good with the personal operating system? Everybody's good with your personal business model, which is the architecture under your personal operating system? And you see how we should put that together. Everybody good? So you're not mad? I'm not talking about code and all that, right? We good? Y'all still with me? All right, that's what this is about. You can't talk about that heavy, complex stuff after eating. Put you right down. All right, so with that, iterating on the personal operating system. Let's talk about that. Okay, so here, I thought it'd be cool to revisit the Agile Manifesto. And you have to say it like that. The Agile Manifesto, right? Right? I mean, that's where all this stuff comes from, right? We got these conferences and all the stuff we do. It's based off of one document that a couple guys got together and said, you know what? I don't want to pay IBM all that money. Something wrong with paying all that money for something that don't work, right? And I won't just pick on IBM. I can pick on all of them. I just picked on IBM because that, to my recollection, was kind of the time when this came about, all right? Sorry, IBM. But they got together and said, you know what? We shouldn't have to waste money, time, pain, because with waterfall, we got to know everything up front, right? You got to know everything up front. We have to analyze it up front. Then we got to test it up front. Then we got to design it up front. Then we actually build something. And then by the time we get to building it, guess what? The customer said, I don't want that. I don't want that. It took you 5 months, 6 months to come back with a design, and the market moved. Oh, man, how much money did we waste, right? So when we think about the manifesto and these 4 points, the things we want to focus on that help us with our personal operating system are the same things. Individuals and interactions over process and tools. So what does that mean for you individually? Get out of your cube. Go talk to somebody that's not you and not the immediate person next to you. That's what makes Agile beautiful, right? Get out of your cube. Get off Zoom, right? Go meet folks. That's more important. What's more important is the working software. What working software are we talking about? The personal operating system. Yours. Your personal system, way of living, what you believe, your process, all that stuff. It's got to work. Why does it have to work? Because if it doesn't work, you don't work. We believed in that more over documentation. Who writes everything down every day? Anybody do to-do lists still? Like long ones? Now here's the question. You ready? All right, be totally honest with me on this because I'm having fun with this conversation. All of you that have these to-do lists, right, and got these really fancy software programs that manage all that, how many times do you actually make it through your to-do list? Oh, it got quiet. Oh, it just rolls to the next day. Oh, okay, I got you. Okay, it's like a rolling thing, huh? Like rolling admission at a college. Yeah, we take you anytime. As long as you pay that tuition, bud. As long as you pay that tuition, we'll take you anytime. So, yeah, rolling. It just keeps rolling, huh? Okay, I got you. Well, exactly. Yeah, this is interactive. I like y'all. Y'all talk back to me if you want to. That's totally fine. So, working software is the thing that we're working on for ourselves. So we got to make sure our software works, right? Because that's what makes us who we are. Customer collaboration. Let's talk about that as part of the Agile Manifesto. What is that about? That means that you can't do your thing in a vacuum. You can't do it by yourself in a silo. You got to talk to folks. That's why that personal board of directors I just told you about, that's why that's so important. Because you need somebody to tell you about yourself every now and again. And when they do, that makes you better. So we got to focus on that. And then last part of the Agile Manifesto that I thought was really, really, really good, especially when we put it on a personal note, is responding to change. Responding to change. Notice I said as a part of your POS, one of those bullet points was how you respond to the things that happen to you. Remember I said that? Here's something that someone else said. I can't remember what coworker said this, but I thought it was really, really good, and it really applies here. She said, you have no control over the first thought, but you have all the control over the first reaction to the second thought. I'll say that again. You have no control over the first thought, but you have all the control in the world over the first reaction to the second thought. What that basically says is if something happens to you, you might not have control over how you respond, but if you take the time to actually think about what's happening, you have more control and probably can come up with a better response. That's what that's about. All right? So there's your Agile Manifesto. That's all I'm going to talk about right there. We're not going to go into the 12 principles and the book of whatever, New Testament, Old Testament, that kind of stuff. We're not going to do that with Agile. That's all you get, okay? But I will share this with you because we've seen some kind of diagram like this, right? Where we start with preparation. I think I spelled that right. Yeah, I did. Preparation starts with the vision, starts with the goals, objectives, business strategy. But we just now have to think about it from a standpoint of it being our personal strategy. For us, what is important for us? Where are we going? Why do we exist? You know, sight is what you see in front of your face. Vision is what you see behind your eyeballs, right? So if you have a personal vision, that is where we go into the development of our personal operating system using what you have, been pretty familiar with: sprint planning, daily scrum, product increment, sprint review. You all have done this stuff, but have you done it for yourself? That's the key. And here's the thing I forgot to tell you. When you think about the different stakeholders and everybody's involved, the scrum master, you're the scrum master. The product owner, you're the product owner. The team member, you're the team member too. Okay? And then the user, who uses your personal operating system? You. So out of those 5 groups of people there that you would normally work with at a corporation to build some really nice software to help them out and do something, guess what? For your system, it's mostly you. You serve in all of those roles. And if you recognize that, guess what? You can come up with some really powerful results. Now, I had this daily stand-up with myself the other day. It's okay to laugh. It totally is. I had this meeting with myself. It was 3 people there: me, myself, and I. So when those 3 people get together, I had this meeting. I was like, okay, let's really talk about what's going on. So you all know this is kind of like a Kanban, kind of like a Scrum task board, right? So I think about what we're waiting on. Sometimes you're waiting on permission to do something that you don't need as an individual. That's why that's there. Another thing you might be waiting on is courage to actually take a step to do something different. All right? And then the last thing, you're probably waiting on validation outside of you for something that you have a great idea to do. Anybody doing some of that? It's okay if you are. You know, yeah, I knew you were. You just smiling and shaking your head. This is good stuff. Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, that's what it is. You're waiting on things that you shouldn't be waiting on is what this is about. Now, to do the stuff you have to do that you're not doing, right? You're not determining what your goals are. You're not making plans, and you're not executing. Why is that? Because of stuff you wait on. Right. And then you think about what you're doing. You're actually procrastinating. You're actually complaining. And you're actually being unfulfilled is what that's really supposed to be, unfulfilled. But you're basically not meeting your own needs. And then the stuff that's done, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. That's why we got 3 of them. Got it? So how many people have had a meeting like this somewhere in their career? Come on, be honest. You have. And here's what happens. Your POS kicked in and said, something got to change. Something's got to go. And let me talk about that a little bit more. Because here's what happened. In your POS, you should be developing your product backlog for that. What does that look like? Well, first, you have to determine to go to the next level and to stay competitive what you need on your backlog for your POS. You organize that into a backlog, and then you do a sprint backlog from there. So here's what goes into it. New features, right? We're working on new features when we develop software for our companies and our clients, correct? Yes. But guess what? You should be working on new features for you that are relevant to a changing world. I used to be a Fortran programmer. Any Fortran jobs out there? What about C? Anybody still write C? Ooh, okay. So I guess I can't get a job doing that now, huh? COBOL might still be out there. JCL, any of that? Oh, wait a minute, some of y'all don't even know what I'm talking about. Ooh, I need some new features in my POS. I might need to go learn some JavaScript or something, right? So that's when you find out. You need to go develop some new skills. Next thing, new virus protection and security features. But what do you put in your POS those for? To protect your physical and mental health. You need to put some stuff around you to make sure that that is protected so you can continue to be successful. Make sense? And then, how about this one? APIs. Y'all know what those are, right? Anybody do any API work and integration work? I know my man does. He used to do that when we used to work together a few years ago. APIs, well, that's a neat one. But here's the thing. You need application programmable interfaces so that you can connect with people that are different from you. I am a DEI consultant, so that's how I was able to pull that in here. So what you need to do to be sustainably competitive is realize that the folks that you need to work with don't look like you, some of you. And you need to develop an API to connect with them so that you can have integration that brings about a better solution, not only to you, but to the planet. And then, of course, bug fixes. How many people like TikTok like me? Yeah, come on. Yeah. Y'all like that TikTok. Y'all just scroll. You see that motion I'm making now with my left hand? Yeah, I don't need 2 hands for my phone to look at TikTok. I just do that, right? Well, here's the thing with that. Sometimes when you consume all that content, you might be taking in a couple of bugs to your own POS. That's a good way to look at it, right? So you got to just make sure that whatever you're bringing in when you're updating your system works with your system and not everybody else's. That makes sense? Sure it does. So one of the ways, and I'm almost done. I think I got about 2 more slides, right on time. And one way to actually create the items that go on your backlog is to actually think of them as side hustles. You ever thought about that? A side hustle. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about Gary Vee going out to all of the different garage sales and turning that over, even though that is fun. He's laughing. He knows what I'm talking about. I love Gary Vee, though. 65 pieces of content a day. Good Jesus, that's a lot. But anyway, what I'm talking about with a side hustle, and the way I define a side hustle, is it does two things. It tests your ideas about things that you want to accomplish, you want to do, in a way that shows you that it's either viable or not. And the second, really most important thing, is that it gives you the opportunity to develop a skill or ability that you can't do where you are now. Do you know why I am so comfortable standing right here talking to you right now? Because I made speaking a side hustle. I did. I look for every opportunity to get in front of people. Make them laugh, make them smile, talk about something important, maybe not talk about something they wanted. Hang out with the two in the front here. We might not get a beer. Y'all drink beer? Uh-oh. Time for a POS update right there, bro. Right? So here's the thing. I made public speaking a side hustle. Let me follow that through for a second. So when I did that, guess what happened? I ended up being in the classroom. And when I ended up being in the classroom, guess what happened? I ended up being on 5 university faculties, which I am on now, just by doing a side hustle, right? And it wasn't about the money, even though getting money is cool. I can go buy you a beer. But the thing was, I developed this skill to be able to just talk to y'all, which is more valuable, which makes my POS, right, a little more solid. So find opportunities to develop the things that you want to develop in a way that's safe for you to try it and see if it actually works. That's how you upgrade your POS. Put that on your backlog. So here's what it should look like. This is a good scrum meeting I had with me after I had that other one. Here's what I did. I said, okay, let's look at maybe 6 areas that we want to work on for our POS. One might be health, one might be skills, one might be family, one might be finances, one might be legacy. Legacy meaning, how do I leave the world better than I found it when I leave the world? And then another one that's important to me is service. So with those 6 areas, set up my little, Scrum chart here. And then I say, what am I going to do? What am I in the progress of doing? And what have I done? So I just made this up, but that's for you to take home. That's one way that you can build out your backlog to improve your POS. Everybody cool with that? So here's my story, and then I'm sitting down, or maybe I'm answering questions. Lost my job after 24 years of being in corporate around 2019. Spent 2020 looking for a job, never got one. Got it? So what's not in here is what my grandma told me. My grandma said, you know what, baby? Because I'm from North Carolina. Y'all can tell that probably by now. I'm not from here. Even though I've lived here 21 years, I'm not from here. So grandma said this. She said, if you can't find a job, baby, you might need to make one. So when she said that, you know what kicked in, right? POS. I said, how do I make one? Oh, I got to go figure out and try some stuff. I got to go see what side hustle I can turn into something that makes sense and see if it works for me. So guess what I did? I started an executive search firm. And not only did I do that, I got the first contract within a week, being iterative. Then guess what I did? Once we successfully, executed on that, guess what I could do? I could tell somebody. And guess what happened when I told somebody? They said, well, maybe you could do that for us. Oh, here goes that Agile thing again. Let's try that again. Let's see what retrospective. What did we learn from the last one? Don't do that, do that, don't do that, do that. Do it again. Then guess what happened after the second one? We got another one. Imagine that. And then after the third one, guess what happened? Got kind of crazy. Now we got 14. Why do I share that with you? Not about me. It's about the concept I'm talking about. If you take the time to actually work on you with your personal operating system, the way you're doing the work you're doing for the companies that you work for, I'm pretty sure that not only will you have a sustainable competitive advantage, I think you might enjoy life a little bit more too. And with that, what questions you got? If you dare to ask, I dare to answer. Yes, sir. Yeah, oh, there you go. And if you don't mind, I like to come down here because I just feel like I'm too high up.
Great presentation, first of all. Thank you for sharing your concepts.
Nah, I just came up with all that yesterday, so thank you. I appreciate that. Woo, man, I'm glad that went over good. Give me some.
I love the framework you have for the bad Scrum meeting with self and the good Scrum meeting with self. How often or how frequent would you recommend we do that, and why?
Oh, how often should you meet with yourself? Well, let's look at it. Back in the day when I was at Best Buy, I worked there when they started selling iPhones. And we started doing Scrum stuff, and it was like a 2-week sprint. So maybe it's a 2-week, a 3-week, or a 4-week thing that you actually sit down with yourself and review what you're trying to accomplish. I would start with that big backlog of what do you want to do in those areas that you want to improve yourself in, and then build from there and say, well, what can I check on every 2 weeks or maybe once a month to make sure I'm on the right path? So once you do that and get it going, you'll figure out what your rhythm is, because everybody's got one, okay? Mine, probably every week, I check on mine. Every Sunday, I have a sit down, what am I done this last week, what am I doing now, and what should I do? Do it every Sunday in my Mustang drive to purify myself in Lake Minnetonka. I do it every Sunday, except for when it gets cold. Brother not getting in that cold water, y'all. I'm sorry, no ice plunge, no, none. I'm not doing that. But I will drive by to see how beautiful it is as I'm clearing my head, going through my backlog, saying this is what I got to do this week. Any other questions? Yes.
How formally do you maintain your board? Acceptance criteria on
all that
stories
stuff?
and that kind of thing, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think when you're working on your POS, it depends on your disposition. I got an electrical engineering degree, so back in the day, I could be that specific and get down to, acceptance criteria, percentage complete, and all the other stuff. The older I get, I just had my 50th birthday this week. I'm like, man, I ain't doing all that. Did I do it or didn't I do it? I didn't do it. Oh, okay, I guess it's going on this week's backlog then, So it just depends on what works for you. But find what works for you and work it, okay? Find what works for you and work it. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Quiet quitting, yes.
Quiet quitting would be a motivator to working on your POS?
Absolutely. The question was, do you think quiet quitting is a motivator to work on your POS? I absolutely do think so, because, and I put this in a post somewhere, I think part of the issue with quiet quitting, you can quote me on this, is a lot of people are in jobs they shouldn't be in. Not because of whatever else other than somebody told them that's what they should do. They're in jobs that somebody said, you need to be an accountant, you need to be a this, you need to be that. So they put more emphasis on what someone said for external validation and ended up in a situation that was not who they were designed to be. Me, I found out when I started my company that that's where I was supposed to be. So it's real easy for me to not quiet quit on myself. Because guess what? If I quiet quit, guess what? Nobody else there to do the work. So guess what? I got to do it, right? So that's the motivation. But I would say that's part of the problem. A lot of us have been told all our lives, get a safe job or get something that, you get your Blue Cross Blue Shield, your health partners, all that stuff. That's what my mom used to say, baby, get your engineering degree so you can get Blue Cross and Blue Shield. That's what got me through college. I got to get that Blue Cross Blue Shield. I got to get that card, right? But not go figure out what you're designed to be and what problem you're designed to solve. Got it? So if you all do that, I think that'll shift, and then you'll get into the work you're supposed to do, and you won't quiet quit. In fact, you won't retire because it's what you're supposed to do. Come on, y'all, give me something hard. That's an easy question, What else? Yes.
We only have about a minute.
A minute?
Yeah.
Okay,
We could take
a
one
minute
more
left.
Yeah, one more question.
One more question.
Curious if you have any tips that you might share for working with a personal board of directors, like both to make it effective and also to make it easy for them to provide that kind of service? Like, how often do you get together with them? Should you get together with them all at once? Should you get together with them separately? Anything that makes it work best?
Here's how I think about that. Now, this may sound weird, and I'll end with this. Because of how I define the personal board of directors, someone that aspires to be you, somebody on your same level, like my friends here, and somebody that you aspire to be, having them in the same room is probably not a good idea. Because they're coming from different perspectives, right? You've got, if you want to be a CEO, you can't have the CEO in the room, you're the Scrum Master, and then you got your 15-year-old, neighbor that cuts your grass in the same room. What y'all gonna talk about, right? So you gotta do that sort of segmented a little bit based on what you need at the time. I have a text message sort of group, whatever they call it now, the group chat, I think that's what they call it. Yeah, so I got a group chat with a couple of fellas kind of on my level. Then I give a phone call to a wonderful individual who owns this executive search firm who has worked with Prada, the NFL, all those folks, right? And then I've got my kids. So all my kids, they have jobs, real jobs. They on my personal board, yeah. Mostly because I do get a tax deduction from them. But yeah, so everybody got a job in my house, even the dog. That it? All right, thank you so much, everybody. Hope I said something of value to you. Enjoy the rest of the conference. I'm available to be connected with if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. We do have a 15 minutes break, and then we'll meet in the main room for the open spaces.
All right.
Thank you.